What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look today at the Chicago Blackhawks. There are three guys that are exempt from trade, but the other ones are available, so it does make you wonder what's going to happen to the Chicago Blackhawks this summer. On his latest 32 Thoughts podcast, Hockey Insider Elliotte Friedman discussed the Chicago Blackhawks' willingness to listen to trade offers on pretty much everyone on their roster. He calls them, in quote, a team to watch over the next few weeks. So, I already made a video earlier this week that did very well. Thank you to my Bruins and Blackhawks fans for watching that video. And a lot of you guys were pretty vocal, I guess is the word, about Kirby Dach maybe going to the Bruins. So there were two mindsets. So the Blackhawks side of things, it was, I don't want to see him get traded, right? Of course, they brought in his brother Colton Dach in order for him to resign, right? Of course, that's the mentality. And we want to build this thing around Dach, right? He's a younger player and this and that. And then from the Bruins perspective, one of the comments was literally anything to get rid of DeBrusk, which was not anything about wanting Dach necessarily. It was more about, well, we just need to get rid of DeBrusk. So where does that go, right? So when I look at Dach, the problem is you have to remember the context, guys. This is not the same regime that drafted Kirby Dach or Colton Dach. The mentality in the past 5 months, 6 months, whatever, has changed under Kyle Davidson. This is not Stan Bowman's team anymore. He didn't draft the Dachs. He didn't re-sign any of the guys that are here, pretty much. So I think what it comes down to, and again, I think I've heard this from Elliotte Friedman, is the Blackhawks want to they want to get younger. Dach fits that bill. They want to get younger, faster, and more skilled. Now, this isn't a knock on Kirby Dach, because I do think he's a very talented player. Obviously, he was drafted 3rd overall in the NHL draft. What you have to remember with Dach is he is known as a guy that frustrates you sometimes because of maybe the perception that he's more of a power forward guy than, say, a playmaking center because of his frame. And you could argue either way. If the Blackhawks have the mentality that Dach, we don't want to build our team around Dach, that's when you start to say, all right, well, if you're not liking his game now, why would you re-sign him and take that on? And from Dach's perspective, does he want to re-sign? He's not arbitration eligible this year. If Kirby Dach does not want to re-sign, he doesn't have to necessarily. So you have to wonder, as a Blackhawks fan, I understand why you wouldn't want to trade Dach, and I get that. But there is reason to believe that there is some credibility to that. Like I said, Kirby Dach is an RFA this summer. He's coming off of his entry-level contract. Fair. And that's the first thing. We've already talked about Taze and Kane and all of those guys potentially being on their way out, because you look at this summer you have Kubalik, Kurashev, Strome, and Dach all on RFA deals. Kubalik, I think they want to keep him, of course. Dylan Strome, I do think they try to trade. At least trade his rights somewhere. Kurashev is really talented. I think they want to keep him in the top 6 moving forward. Again, at only 22 years old, playing top 6, I think they like Kurashev. Kubalik, Kurashev, and Dach. Of those 3 guys, I do see Dach as the guy that doesn't fit what Kyle Davidson wants there. Right, is that speedy guy. Now, you could argue Kurashev and Kubalik are very similar to that, right? Again, these are very Stan Bowman draft picks, right? Totally rings the bell of a Bowman draft pick. Next season, you have Kane, Tays, DeBrincat, and Borgstrom. Obviously, there's a big gap between the third guy I mentioned and the fourth guy I mentioned. No shot against Borgstrom here, but there's a clear disparity between those top three guys and Borgstrom. But DeBrincat's an RFA next summer with arbitration rights. Meanwhile, Tays and Kane are both UFAs. And I don't get any sense that either one of them will re-sign with the Blackhawks. Especially Tays. He's announced his frustration with the team. He's 34 years old. I wouldn't even be surprised if he hung up the skates after next season, because he is had a lot of injury issues. His health has been a real concern. I don't think he's going to get a contract he wants next summer. And to be honest, I don't think he wants to return to Chicago with this new direction of the team. So I do think Tays is out. I could say with 95% certainty that I think Tays is out. We've seen mentalities change. You asked Tarasenko what he thought a year ago compared to today. He wanted out of St. Louis. Now he wants to stay. I don't see that happening with Tays. I think this is ever since Quenneville left, since they traded Panarin, since they traded and re-brought in and then traded again Brandon Saad. There's just been so much going on. I do think Tays is kind of on it. He's already got 1 foot out the door. Kane, though, I do think is more likely to return. There is the legacy aspect to Patrick Kane. He wants to be break the record for most points in Blackhawks history, most goals in Blackhawks history. So depending on how much that means to Kaner, I do think he can return. And I do think that is a legitimate option for them. And he's a guy that even at 33, 34, 40 years old, Patrick Kane's the kind of guy that has some stability to his game, maybe a little bit more so than the guy we just mentioned a second ago in Jonathan Tays. So again, I think the Blackhawks, like I said, could be a very active summer. And again, considering all the young guys that are coming in, there's going to be some changes. You look at their blue line, Gustafsson and DeHaan, both UFAs. They might both go. Completely new goaltending tandem would be expected for me. You have Delia and Lankinen. They might let both of those guys go, bring in somebody else. Caleb Jones is a RFA with arbitration rights this summer. I think they do try to keep him with his brother. I do think they will be able to accommodate that. For the most part, this is going to be a very different team next year. And considering you've got some young guys, shout out to Evan Barrett. He played for Penn State. Evan Barrett, Colton Dach, Jacob Poor, Josiah Slavin. What are some other names here? They have a couple prospects. Ethan Del Maestro is another guy I've heard a little bit about. Nolan Allen is a first round or early second round pick. One of those two, Nolan Allen. So there is guys on the Blackhawks prospects system. So do they have to trade a Dach in order to get prospects and draft picks? No, not necessarily. This is more of a, does he fit the culture of what we're trying to build sort of mentality? Because they have 2 second-round picks. They have 3 second-round picks. They don't have their own 4th or 5th. They're already building the cupboard the next couple years. They've got Tampa's next 2 first-round picks, Tampa's second-round pick next year. So they have a lot of draft capital in the next 2 seasons. It's not necessarily that. It's again, like I said, does Dach fit with what they want to build? And we're probably going to get some of those questions answered this year. And again, if they're one of the teams that I could see definitely looking to trade back into the first round, maybe that's how they do it with a Kirby Dach trade. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the idea of trading Dach? I think that's the main point of the video, kind of a follow-up to the first video I had. And who would you like to see as the next goaltender there? I think that's going to be really an interesting thing. Do they go with a Jack Campbell or Kemper? Do they go with a Ville Husso? What do they really do there? Because I don't think they have a lot of guys in the cupboard behind Lankinen and Delia that they could really kind of pour into. Who could they bring in? And the next big thing to end today's video, who's the next head coach? It doesn't look like Derek King will be back with the Chicago Blackhawks. Maybe he goes back to Rockford. Maybe he goes back to the AHL on another organization. But it does sound like Derek King will no longer be the head coach of the Blackhawks moving forward. Guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.